Good morning, everyone. Where I am, it's morning. Come right on into the room. Today we have a phenomenal lesson on persistence, the sustained effort to induce faith, faith in our world and faith in ourselves. I'm Leslie Flowers, and I'm excited to be here each Friday where I walk you through the 13 principles of success found in the number 2 bestseller of all times, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Millions and billions of copies have been sold with the exact blueprint to generate as much money as you want to do the things in the world that you want to do, and be sure that you get it every time. So it's the roadmap, Think and Grow Rich, to success. And over the last 100 years, I can tell you that all the personal development greats have built their program on the principles of success, and many, many businesses in general have used this. And I'm Leslie Flowers, and I've been studying and teaching this over 16 years for 20,000 hours. And I just love this. So, oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. And with this music, you set your vibrational context. So this is a teaching lesson until 10:45. And your comments are vital because it lives on my profile page. All of these lessons do. And they're in 12-week clusters so that you can go back and refer to them. And so when you put in a comment here or ask a question or point out something you just noticed, keep in mind that people who are on team replay, who come in later, even yourself, will have the benefit not only of what I'm doing today, which I love doing, but also what you had to say. And the people that come into this room typically are learners, people who want to grow in conscious awareness of their infinite potential. So let's say good morning. Look who's here. Hello, Laura Van. Yes, communication skills coach. If your first language is not English, but you're living in a world of English, one of her specialties is to help you be understood and articulate what you're saying better and better and better. Because it's all about, do people understand me? And that's Laura's specialty. And also, I'm happy to see my friend Elizabeth, who is a hypnotherapist, a multi-book author, and also a nurse. So thank you for being here. And I will assume that we are live on LinkedIn and also on YouTube. This is new for me, and I can thank Omar M. for helping me with the YouTube piece. Welcome. You're from Normandy. Okay, so drop in your name. For whatever reason, it won't show us. Maybe we're not on first connection. Let's change that, shall we? That would be fabulous. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, this week we're doing persistence. But as you know, there are 13 principles of success. And so we've already been through quite a bit. But in Think and Grow Rich, it matters that you start from the beginning. It is a process that mimics success that Napoleon Hill, at 20 years old, was invited by Andrew Carnegie to spend 20 years until he was about 40 interviewing the most happy, healthy, and wealthy successful U.S. citizens, which he did without a fee. he wasn't paid anything. But as you can imagine, over 20 years with the connections Carnegie gave him, he did very, very well. Now, it is said that he did thousands of interviews, but really there were 500 people he was following consistently with more than one interview. And in the end result, the goal, if you will, that Carnegie wanted to know and that Napoleon Hill gave us was exactly what are those 500 people doing that the rest of us are unaware of. And so it's all about continuous learning, isn't it? And if you're in this room, you know that. And so Napoleon Hill is probably known as the 20th century's greatest reporter on success. But he was interviewing people who were successful. So that means that you could also do the same thing. Let's say all of a sudden you decided that you wanted to be an expert in real estate sales and you know nothing about real estate. If that's the idea and you have a desire for that, you can do what Napoleon Hill did. But it's all about what we're going to talk about today, which is persistence, because without it, nothing gets done. There is no success, right? So think about that. All right, let's see here. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Elizabeth. Okay, so let me bring this up here. And I want to go here. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is back up a little bit. Hey, look here. Who's Kelly's here? Glad everybody's coming in. Hey, so good to see you, Kelly. Kelly is phenomenal, wonderful, does wonderful lives, and she is a supporter of wheelchairs for warriors. Just someone you really want to get to know and who is very faithful. So thank you for being here, Kelly. Okay, so since we're in week 5 or 6, what are we? 1, 2, 3. It's been a few weeks. Okay. So even before the first stop, this is a tour, if you will, which I've used before in this 12-week series, because if you don't have the ones that precede persistence, you really need them all to understand all the principles of success and how to implement them. And people who are wildly successful have done it, even if they don't know about this, even if they've never read Think and Grow Rich. I've actually interviewed someone who spent several years creating a plant hanger for an idea she had, and she was persistent. She was in love with it. She had a very definite purpose, right? And that's what you have to have before you begin. Why is she doing it? What difference is it going to make for people? And while she didn't know the principles of success, I went through and asked her during her journey from start to fulfillment, when people could actually buy these things years and years later. She had gone through every one. So really what the work I do is to instill via habit how to set a goal and achieve it, whatever it is. Typically, we think about money, but money is a tool to give us the things we want, right? So remember, you can ask any questions. You may want to take a couple of notes, be listening for something maybe that you heard before, but it sounds a little different this time. You know, out of confusion comes order. So as many times as I've done this training, and you've listened to it, many of you, you're constantly growing in awareness of your potential. You're not slipping back if you're here, right? You're okay to slip back, but you're either moving forward in awareness or slipping back. It's not a static place. So the things that you hear today may sound completely new. So coming into any kind of training, I will tell you, pretend you've never heard it before, because that will stop you from saying, well, I've heard this before. Because no, the I that you are today has not heard this before. You're a new I every day. And that's a one way to look at it. Okay, So here's what we've done so far. We'll go a few more minutes on this and then we'll get right into persistence. I want to make sure, though, that each one of you, or whoever is listening, that you understand that this is a process. And in my 12-week program, it's not only this process, but it includes universal laws and 25 years in leadership training. It's the mindset piece to do anything you want. In fact, just so you know, over the last 16 years, I've done 61 12-week quarters, and using my hybrid process, which is infused with the principles of success, universal law, and my own concepts and leadership training, over 500 12-week goals have been achieved. And not one of them did the person know how to do. It was something they had never done before. So you see this part about understanding and learning these elements, which you've probably heard before, but perhaps not at this higher level of awareness, right? You have to have that in order to achieve what you want. There's stuff you don't know. And that was the beauty of what Napoleon Hill did. None of this information is new. It's been available in all sorts of texts since recorded history, which is about 5,000 years. But the unique thing is that he consolidated it all in one place. And I've spent 16 years studying it and teaching it effectively. And of course, adding my own stuff, right? Because this is 100 years old. We've learned a lot since then. So the very first thing, good morning, Terrence. So glad to see you here. Glad you're here. A long-time supporter, and he's always here, so he must love this stuff like me. That's all I can say. So set an intention for today. What is it that you'd like to get out of this? You're investing 45 minutes of your time with me. You could be doing anything else. So I just want to acknowledge you for that, because there are only about 2 or 3 people out of 100 that have the persistence and the desire to learn and really grow in your ability, your deservability, which also refines your self-esteem. That's a lot of this work, and we're going to have some fun today. Okay, so before you get on the train, you've got to have a definite purpose. That's in the introduction. It's not even one of the principles. It is the seed. It has to be crystal clear. What do you want? Why do you want it? What difference will it make in the world? Can you stay focused on this? You want this more than anything else. And the recommendation with the 12 laws of achievement is only one goal every 12 weeks. Not to be confused with a philanthropic goal, and not to be confused with the tasks you'll need to reach the goal. But the reason you'll see today that there's only one goal, part of the reason is that you have a life. When people do more than one goal, they're not getting the process, and they usually quit and give up. It's natural behavior. This is what I've learned over 16 years with all my clients, all their trials and tribulations, all the stoppers, right? It didn't matter whether they were an entrepreneur, a small business owner, a franchise owner, whether they were corporate. It's all the same. The mindset piece is all the same. So you have to have a definite purpose. Don't even get on the train. And when you have that purpose, you have to go and fall in love with it. It's all you think about. It's your goal for this 12 weeks, 3 months. The reason that I will tell you this, I'm not the first one to realize that about 12 weeks is about as long as we'll stay motivated on one thing, with everything else going on in our lives, right? So trust me when I tell you one is the way, because then you get to replicate the process. What you want here is to be able to set and achieve any goal you want without violating the rights of anybody else, every time, every 12 weeks, every 6 months, whatever you decide it's going to be. Why every? Well, because you want to be able to enjoy yourself. You're supposed to be happy, healthy, and wealthy, like the 500 people that Napoleon Hill interviewed over 20 years. But if you achieve one goal, you're very happy, healthy, and wealthy, and then you fail on the next one because you don't have a process. You haven't paid attention, perhaps, to how you got it. You're just excited you got it. Well, then your emotions sink. And then you exceed your goal or you meet your goal the next time. So you're like this emotionally. That's not the optimum way. That people that are wildly successful, they are persistent above all else, but it's all built on a definite purpose. What difference is it going to make? They're compelled to do this. In fact, it's a little obsessive. If you start thinking about computers and the people who began the computer, Apple and Microsoft, the Wright brothers, they had to be a little bit obsessed. You see the world through the prism of your desire, and that's desire. That's the starting point of all achievement. You won't build desire through repetition, thinking about it every couple of days, focused on it, imagining it in your mind's eye, enjoying the idea of already having it. None of that will even start unless you have a definite purpose. That's the key to all of this. The clarity of what you want. It's your goal, your purpose, your vision, whatever it is. There's a lot of words, right, that say the same thing. In your mind's eye, when you close your eyes and you look up to the screen of your mind, which is about 20 degrees above your line of sight, with your imagination, you will visualize it already being so. You're already having it. And why would you do that? Because it's exciting. Because it makes you feel good. And by the way, that feeling good is a cellular activity. And that's what mind is. Mind is not brain. Brain is an organ. Mind is a cellular activity. So when you're thinking really good thoughts over and over and over again, you get goosebumps, you feel really good. My friends, that's our natural state. And that's what communicates to God and the universe about what it is you want. And that frequency is the speed with which you will achieve your goal. Let me see who else is here. I'll just take a breath there. Good morning, Sharon Byrne. So glad you're here. I'm happy to see you. Sharon and I are working on an anthology together. We're contributing to an anthology, our chapters, right? To a wonderful book project about LinkedIn, the LinkedIn love affair. So glad to see you. And Karat, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad you like the topic. And I'll probably share some things. Thank you for being here. I may share some things that you don't quite get right away, like you're a little confused. Don't worry about it. Let that go, because you can always go back and listen to this. And maybe you weren't exactly ready today for it to make sense, but you don't want to clog up your mind with worrying about, well, why didn't I get this? It doesn't matter right now. You'll get it another time. Just trust yourself and move to the next point, because there'll be many that you get. This is it's a 50,000 foot overview, but there's also depth here. So I don't want you to be alarmed if some of this you don't get, but most of it you will. Okay. So I'm watching the clock here because we have till 10:45. Remember, you can ask me questions, clarifications, anything that comes to mind. Make comments, say hello to each other. You can do that too. It helps drive up the comments, although this is teaching. So that isn't quite as important as with other posts, although it is. Okay, so you've got desire. You got a definite purpose. You've got a desire. Now you're thinking about this thing every day a little bit. You're imagining yourself with it. And during the week, you're going to take a couple of steps, which means you're going to complete a task or two. The last thing you want to do is plot everything out to the end. That's part of the laws of achievement. If you know exactly how to get it, you would have already And the purpose of a goal is to keep you motivated into action. That's why with those 500 achieved goals, every one of them started with not knowing how. And I know that's counterintuitive, but come and play with me, because this is where the real fun, the real intellect, right? We're the only living beings with conscious awareness. The ability to take an idea for a pencil, a mechanical pencil, and then to execute it. It starts with the definite purpose. Oh, I want something. Then it's through repetition. You think about it all the time and it excites you. It has a big why. Now, through that repetition, let's say over 12 weeks, every other day, thinking about it, 2 tasks a week, right? That's how faith is built. And the week after that, we learned about autosuggestion, self-suggestion in spaced, repetitive intervals over time. This is how we learned our multiplication tables. So you can't see this too many times, because remember, every time you watch this or you hear this material, you're at a higher level of awareness, so it's going to look different to you. You're on a higher frequency, if you will. Now, you don't stay there, but literally you're moving up and up in conscious awareness of your infinite potential as you continue to learn. Let me see what our LinkedIn user has to say. Conscious awareness is the biological right now, but soon digital too. Interesting concept. Thank you for that. Here's Dr. Marcia. Oh, thank you, Dr. Marcia. Dr. Marcia is a newly international best-selling author, a new international best-selling author. Lessons learned from COVID. Just yesterday, they crossed the line, but she is a Christian coach, and she is really sharp about the New Testament. We must be prepared to educate. That's another whole conversation, right? So that we're getting at, yeah. Well, we've got to get it ourselves first before we can educate robots. And the problem is only 2 or 3 out of 100 are even interested or willing to do this kind of education. Unfortunately, the mindset training. We'd rather flop around and try to do it ourselves until we've lost enough money or invested enough money, failed enough times. We go, okay, find me somebody who knows what they're doing. And one of the most important things when you are learning this kind of material is do your due diligence. I have results. Whoever you work with, have them show you the results that they've already have. So often in the United States, and this is my personal view, because it's so open and free, and anybody can hang out a shingle and say, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach. But very often, if me, the potential client, isn't sharp enough or doesn't know to really do the due diligence, not to go just on your heart. That's what I used to do. I really like this person. Oh, they really seem to know what they're doing. They sure know more than me. And then I pay them and I realize that they maybe are 1 page ahead of me. So then what's happened is my time and my investment has been helping this person who decided they wanted to do this get their education and be paid for it. So due diligence is important. Ask for palpable results. You can use your heart, but you're also investing your time, which you never get back, and your money, your revenue. So that's just a little extra thing here. Machine learning is the thing our guy says. I got where you're coming from. And this is a little different. So please enjoy. So after that, you've got faith over the time period of time. You are repeating the visualization. You're taking a task. You can take baby steps and reach the top of any mountain as long as you don't stop moving your feet. You don't have to leap there. And it is a process and it does take time and you have to be patient. If you're not willing to be patient, then this isn't the right time for you. But one day it will be. So then autosuggestion is how we learn in spaced repetitive intervals over time. And I suspect that's how machines learn also. Then we moved into imagination, the workshop of the mind. That's what we're doing when we're visualizing. We feel really great about it. We raise our cellular vibration. That's what communicates with the universe. You don't have to know everything about it, but then the universe uses that vibration, that positive vibration, and the frequency to send you what you want. And it's either positive or negative. It's what you're thinking about all the time. It isn't all intentional. In fact, most of it is by default. If you spend a lot of time listening to the one station on the news, right, you're going to be skewed into that. And I'll show you why. All right. So then there's two kinds of imagination. One, when you get a wild idea, which is creative imagination, but then immediately your synthetic imagination, the sum total of all your experiences, go to work. And you start filling in the puzzle pieces. Okay, so I could do this, and I do know that person, but you can't know how. Then we went on to decision. Well, with a definite purpose, before you even pull out of the train station, decisions become easy. If you get a new opportunity, all you have to do is ask, if I do this, if I take this opportunity right now, will it take me directly to my goal? If it will, you figure out a way to do it. But if it will not, and it just sounds good, you tell the person, or you put it on your calendar. You don't throw it out, but you don't do it now. And that takes some discipline, which maps to persistence. All right. So that's where we are today. We are in persistence. All right. So to jump right into it, let me look here. Okay. We've done this before. So we've gone through all the steps and we're up here to persistence. If you're not persistent, you will not be a success. So the key is how is it that you can develop persistence? And one of the things that Napoleon Hill does is he points out the lack of persistence. So let me show you this slide here. I'm going to do this right here. I think this is right. Okay. Now, don't let this confuse you, but I want to show you how your mind works. Now, remember, mind is not your brain. And I know this looks like a brain, but they're two completely different things. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I'm not sure who you are, but I'm thrilled that you're here. Let's become first connections. I suspect that may be why I don't see your picture. Anyway, very happy that you're here, and you are welcome. All right. So this is a graphic that explains how your mind works. So you really have two minds, for simplicity's sake. You've got the conscious mind, which is right here, right now. We're thinking, we're present, we're having a conversation, you're processing, you're taking notes, etc. And then you have the subconscious mind, which is the result of everything that you've allowed into the conscious mind on purpose or by default in repetition over time. So what lives here, and this is not your thinking mind, this is your autopilot emotional mind, which is different than your feeling mind. And I'll explain this in a second. So over the years, really, for most people I know, and this may not be true for you, everybody has the 6 basic fears, and they have perfect faith in them. Because we failed and we failed again. And every time we went to do that thing, we reminded ourselves of how we failed, right? And that's a very low vibration, but it's not thinking. And it's very powerful because you've been thinking it for decades. You believe that you couldn't do it. You have proof. Some people say it's false evidence appearing real. Well, it wasn't false then. The problem is it's still running our lives 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Now, the only element of pure faith, unless you're doing this work, that most people have is the belief in God, a supreme being, and a co-creator. And that's actually how we get our creative ideas. They come in through the conscious mind. But the love of God, the faith in the universe is not strong enough to outweigh the 6 fears. They're real. Fear of criticism. Well, if I do this and I don't do well, what are people going to think of me? So I won't do it. Oh, the fear of poverty. It occupies everybody's mind first. Only one thought occupies your mind. There's not enough money. When you do this work, you realize that you can create a wealth mindset. And I'll show you how this works in just a second. Then you have fear of illness. Real. COVID. Hello. We all wore masks. That was a real fear. That's real. And we have perfect faith in our fears. That is the paradox. Is that faith in God or the universe or one supreme being is not enough to outweigh those fears. But we'll get them some little brothers and sisters. Then we had fear of illness, fear of loss of love, divorce, death of someone, breakup, loss of a child, old age. I used to have that, but I don't anymore because I'm old now. It feels great. And then death. We've all had people die. We've all looked at the old. When I go to a restaurant, look at me. And I go into a restaurant and I see women 10, 20 years younger than me with the white, blue hair, with little tiny curls, right? I guess it's okay for them. But I look at them and they look older than me. And maybe they feel older. I don't know. But our outward expression has a lot to do with our self-esteem and our belief about ourselves. So now let's switch over here to the conscious mind. And we're talking about persistence, where it has to do with your will. Okay, and will is our ability to focus. These attributes are what we call mental muscles. These are the things that we work on to develop. And this is what you learn about how all these things work. But the most powerful with persistence is your ability to stay focused. And I will tell you, over the last 5 years especially, that's my client's biggest problem. I can't stay focused. That's why we do so many different goals and we get none of them done. So let me just see what is next. Any questions from anybody? So you've got the conscious mind, which is us right now, and it's a sensing. It's a feeling. When we feel really good, right? It's not an emotional mind. These are all reactive, angry, worried. We don't have any real faith in ourselves. Now, when you set a goal based on all of this and you develop the will, you'll have persistence. No matter what happens, you're going to do this thing. Have you ever done this before? Have you ever gone for something when everything looked like it was against you and you didn't care? You had so much desire and you were so compelled. You didn't care about the obstacles. I know this has happened to you. That's will. And very often, the will to achieve something can look cold, but it's really not. It's what's required of you consciously. Let's see what this person has to say. For people with ADHD have a hard time to focus. Oh, absolutely. But you know what? I actually believe we're all neurodivergent and we all have a bit of ADHD. That we've excluded those things as something wrong and we're middle of the road and they're not. These are advantages. And Napoleon Hill talks about this when his son was born with no ears or no apparatus. Instead of putting him in the school for deaf and teaching him sign language, they used it to his advantage. And that's another whole story. So let's just see here what this... Hello, Soroya. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm glad you're enjoying it. Okay. So let me think. Oh, yeah. All right. So let me pull this off here. I want to see what the next slide is. Okay, that's easy enough. All right. So in terms of persistence, there are 4 reasons in general why people give up on their goals. So what do you think they are? You can drop an answer in the comments. Why do you think most people give up on their goals? Because most of them do. What's missing? What do you think is missing? What don't they know? What is it that has you and me? Well, I don't so much anymore, right? Because I know how to do this. But what is it that has us give up? I'd love to see your comments. And I will share this with you in the interest of time. Self-doubt, Kirat. That is right on the border. Yes. It shows up a little bit differently, but that is a good one. What else? Self-doubt. Anybody else? Okay. Let me do this. This is new. Okay, here we go. Here we go. I'm going to give this to you right now. They didn't do the definite purpose. So you couldn't build a desire. You weren't able to build faith in yourself. And this is what Kirat is talking about. You don't have any faith in your ability or your deservability. And those are the 4 reasons. What's the lack of information? Oh, you don't know about the universal laws. That if you don't get it on the exact day, there's nothing wrong with you. That's why people give up. Because they think, well, I set a date, this date, and I'm 2 days before it and I don't have it yet. Well, keep in mind that there are 7 universal laws. And one of them manages the day you'll receive it. The universe will not give you the goal and pass it over until you're a vibrational match to enjoy it. So you may have carved out something too big for your level of awareness. And because God in the universe wants you to succeed, it will hold back. This is the law of gender or gestation. It will hold back the goal until you've done the work. Quick example of this. I know you've got that. Let me get that back over here and go to comments and see what else. Missing self-belief. Impatience, that's a good one. Karat says impatient, missing self-belief. This one's a lot like self-doubt. Excellent. Okay, so you saw the 4. So number 1, you didn't have a clear, definite purpose. That's right. You cannot build desire and then following faith, right? And this is excellent. Oh, I'm reading it and no one else. There we go. No definite purpose, unable to fuel the desire or build the faith. That's right. It is the motivation, the desire to bring this thing into the world, whatever it is, that is the fuel for desire. It's the repetition and the persistence over time that builds faith. And I want to show you this again, because what happens is when you set a goal and you achieve it and you've never done it before, it moves, it becomes faith. It's a new belief. And it moves once you achieve it. It moves from the conscious into the subconscious where it lives like the truth. So now you also have faith in God. Okay, that's very positive and powerful, but still not enough. I mean, we've got fears that we've been dragging around from childhood trauma for decades, and they really happened. But you see, you can't have 2 thoughts at the same time. And it's this subconscious, this automatic reactive that when you get a new idea will beat your conscious mind to the punch. Only one will prevail. And so all this automatic business has us playing very small. But once you've done something that you failed at before or you never knew how to do and you actually completed it, now you have proof and perfect faith in your ability and your deservability for that thing. So the universe will give up and give you what you want, but you've got to do the work. So the whole idea is I've had people that have done as many as 5 years with me doing 12-week goals to build a business, consistently setting, achieving. I mean, I've had people do 1 12-week, 6, 9, it doesn't matter. Once you get the process, you've got it. Of course, there's a mastermind and accountability, all that good stuff goes along with it, right? So we're getting close here. But the idea here is we're using our conscious awareness and biomimicry to replicate the process that gave us our fears, repetition, right? Low vibration, thinking about it over and over again, auto-suggestion. It eventually moves from the conscious into the subconscious, and you can't reject it. You can reject anything that's going on consciously. You can reject anything I'm saying easily, consciously. But once it's been repeated, whatever it is, enough times, it moves in and becomes perfect faith. Now you've got positive things automatically responding. Okay. All right. Let me just do something here. Okay. That's a lot of talking. All right. So we're getting close to the end here. So one last story for you. And then I have a couple of things I want to show you. So in this chapter on persistence, the sustained effort necessary to build that faith in your ability, faith in your deservability, because you don't have that until you do this work, right? This work of being hungry for new information so that you can bring your ideas into the world to help other people. We all reach that at different times, but there's a wonderful story in I think it was 1921, Fannie Hurst, who is a very famous playwright and author. She arrived on the streets of Broadway. She got 36 rejections from the Saturday Evening Post. Most people would have given up. But Fannie Hurst walked the streets of Broadway. She said, okay, Broadway, I'll show you. She refused to give up. She was so hell-bent to become a famous author and a playwright. She loved writing more than anything. And finally, Broadway gave up. She received the largest advance, $100,000, 100 years ago, for not writing a word. So you really can beat Mother Nature, but you have to put in the work. All right, let me show you a couple of things because we're just about at the end. We're going to run over. Any questions? I'm going to come back and I'll double check anything that you said. Remember that this lives on my page. So anytime you want, excuse me, you can go and listen to any one of the lessons again. Okay, look here. So to Elizabeth's point, on September 23rd, I'm opening up my 12-week program. I took a hiatus this summer to bring in this, my 10th book and my first fiction, which won a lot of wonderful, I think it was 5 bestsellers, 3 #1 international bestsellers. It's a science fiction, fantasy, and love story. My first stab at it. It took 25 years, though, to get it written. So with my friend Paulette Hallam at my side, you will be able to master achievement of anything you want in 12 weeks. But what we're doing is we're taking on 4 authors who want to hold the book draft of the book they've always wanted to write in their hands before Christmas. So if you are willing and focused, and you know this is the time, then what there is for you to do is to, where is it? Here it is. Here we go. Learning all these good things. Is to book a Zoom call with me. You're going to learn all the principles of success, the 12 laws of achievement, which I've written, all the universal laws, all the leadership, quantum physics, metaphysics touches on all of that. Go to tiny URL, Goalmaster, 4 authors So you have to make a decision. Is it something you want? Do you have a definite purpose? It is possible for you to do this if this has been something you've always wanted to do. And I think that is about the end of this today. So next week, we're going to do the subconscious mind. And we'll get in a little deeper into how this play between your conscious feeling, right, where perception, how we look at things, imagination, we've covered that, intuition, your sixth sense, memory, it's 100% if you want it to be, and reason or will or focus. And you'll learn how they're mental muscles. And the more we practice through repetition, managing these automatic fears, we get better and better and better at it. And pretty soon we can outweigh those fears. So they no longer stop us. If we have a definite purpose, if you have a definite purpose and you're persistent and you have a deep desire, you will be a success. But remember, most of us have a poverty consciousness, so we're worried about money. Well, you can also learn how to build a wealth mindset, because based on universal law, there is abundance. You just don't see it yet. See, what you believe has a low vibration if it's about, I don't have enough money. So one of the things about faith is taking a step out on faith. All right, so let me just see here if there are any more comments, and then I'll close the room. Oh, Joanne, it's so good to see you. I'm so glad you're enjoying this. I do this every week, Friday at 10 a.m. I'm just hooked on it. It keeps me young. So as you go out into this beautiful weekend, as we move into September, what is your goal? What do you want? Have you dreamt about being an author? Are you smart enough? Are you an expert? Are you, rather than, on your way, you really have felt compelled and you have a lot to say and a lot of ways to help people, and you've already been doing it. But I'll tell you, a chapter here or there is fun to do with anthologies, but don't you have a bigger message? When you do, I can help you. So remember, as we say goodbye for this week, when you walk through a storm, always hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark, because at the end of every storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet, simple song of the lark. Thank you, everyone, for being here today and all your kind comments, for trading this time with me. And I trust that you found that it was valuable to you. That was my intention. So thank you.